I'll now introduce Vinod and also hand over the presentation to Vinod because I'm sure you all are looking forward to it. Vinod is an enterprise agile coach with over a decade's experience coaching enterprise agile teams across industries and geographies. He is a certified Scrum at Scale trainer, certified Safe 5 program consultant, and certified Safe Release Train engineer. It's a very, very short profile, but I'm sure there's a lot more for us to know during the presentation. And just as you all, I'm also always eager to be part of Vinod's presentations. It's been a pleasure to be a part of his webinars. So thank you, Vinod, once again. Over to you for the presentation today.
Okay, so thanks, Adi. Thanks for the introduction. I always believed in keeping my profile or introductions short. So welcome everyone to the organizational design for agility using Scrum at Scale framework. And yeah, I'll just be introducing what Scrum at Scale framework is all about. I will go about how important is organizational design, right? So this is a brief introduction. Well, this is me, and I was kind of fortunate to co-train with Dr. Des Sutherland, who's none other than the founder of Scrum, co-founder of Scrum, and co-founder of the Agile Manifesto as well. I would like to start the quote from Watagina, which says, "You're often only as good as your last product. That means you have to be agile." So the message here is that you cannot live with a success for too long. Maybe 20 or 30 years back, you could live on the success for maybe a couple of years or 10, 20 years without making much change because market used to not demand the change. You do not have much competitors, right? But now in an agile environment or what we call it in a VUCA environment, which is more volatile, ambiguous, and complex environment, you never know when your competitor is born. The competitor may be born at any point of time, and you may be, put out of the market at any point of time. So you cannot live on the success for too long, right? So with that, I just want to share a short message from Dr. Des Sutherland. The best companies are Scrum companies. If you look at, between the market share of how the market has grown between 2010 to 2019, all the top performers are the technology companies. The top performer was Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, and Facebook, right? And I think things have been changing quite rapidly off it as well. But all these, so in 2018, Apple became the first company to hit 1 trillion valuation, and within 2 years, it's 2 trillion. Now imagine they maybe took around more than 30 years to reach that 1 trillion, and within 2 years, they doubled it. That's how scaling business means, right? Amazon also reached there, and so did Microsoft. And all are Scrum organizations. All have been phenomenally matured Scrum organizations who've been a benchmark for certain cultural agile transformation along with cultural transformation, and they've been a benchmark for many other organizations to really, showcase that how you're going to treat your employees, how you're going to build successful products, and how do you sustain it for quite some time. Sustenance is quite crucial. If you look at, in the beginning of the automobile boom in the beginning of 20th century, there were 110 automobile industries which started off. And now we just have 3 of those automobile industries surviving. The point is, when you establish a business, it's not about are you going to do business for 10 years or 20 years. It's all about how we can sustain that for over a period of time. That's why you have board of directors, you have a trust, you have board of directors, you have all policies in place to ensure that even the founders are not there, business continues to thrive, right? Now, Dr. Des Sutherland says a broken system doesn't work. What does he mean by that? So he means that, before scaling, it's very important that teams adopt Agile and Scrum at a team level, and they are matured over a period of time before they start scaling. You cannot adopt Agile and start scaling at the same time. That's where the system breaks, right? So teams need to understand at the team level agility, how does it work, and go through the different stages of Tuckman model, which is about forming, norming, storming, performing. Go through all these stages when you become a performing individual team, and then you start scaling. So, as an organization, every organization would have to have a certain agile maturity models. Trying to say there are different indexes that you are on the current, identify your current state, identify your next different indexes that you want to reach, and different what do you need to do before you reach the next state. As a team or as an organization or a set of teams, how to reach the maturity level, what do I need to accomplish? Right. So first stage, can be something called the agile investigation state, where organization, if it's completely new to agile, they're trying to figure out if agile is the right fit. That's where organizations like McKinsey, they drop in and they come and do an evaluation. They try to say that, okay, fine, organizations is trying to figure out what do we do, how do we scale up business, how do we make it profitable, what are changes required. That's where McKinsey comes in, presents a report which tells them, with many other things along with that, you got to be agile in the current trend, right? And that's where they start figuring out, okay, fine, now how do we start? Where do we start from? So that's when I say that, okay, fine, we brainstorm, agile is a way, let's identify a few teams in a certain business unit, and then let's identify teams who participate in that, and then they start adopting agile. And that's where we move to the next index, which says the agile adoption and practice. So you identify maybe 7 to 8 teams, all at the team level. You set up the 3-5-3, that is 3-5-3 framework of the Scrum, which is the 3 roles, the 5 events, and 3 artifacts. You implement many other artifacts and processes of Scrum, and you start sprinting. And that's when you understand different challenges. Scrum is more like a diagnostic tool, Scrum and Agile, where it's not a problem-solving tool. You apply Agile and Scrum, you get to know what are the challenges that the system throws you back. And you got to solve those challenges, overcome, navigate through those challenges to eventually reach the milestone that you all aspire to. And once at a team level, after a certain period of time, you become a performing team as per Tuckman's model, you start scaling. That's when the scale agile comes in the picture. So when you start scaling, you figure out, you try to identify the reference model, as in Scrum Scale we call, identify few teams, maybe a couple of product teams, maybe 5 to 6 teams in each of these product teams. They are part of the scaling reference model. So they all start scaling. We apply the Scrum Scale framework at each of these product teams, and then we start sprinting again, right? Now, in due course, we'll show you about how the Scrum Scale framework looks and its different components. And once you reach a certain maturity, you need to move to the organizational-wide agility. That is when you have the support teams like the HR, finance, infrastructure teams. All the support teams are also onboarded as part of your agile transformation. And finally, you reach the business agility state. That's the pinnacle, right? That's when you start reflecting based on it, because of your transformation, you start reflecting, you're seeing changes in your business. You may start making more revenue. You may start releasing more products to the market. The shareholder, is quite happy about it. You may start making more profits. Then you start onboarding more users. All your financial goals are pretty much met, and that's a state of business agility. So there are, the state of agility is one such statistical institute which performs general statistics across the industry, and they found out a couple of top 10 challenges, to adopt agile before they adopt agile transformation. And we'll just try to see the top 4. The first one and the most biggest challenge, around 48%, is the general organizational resistance to change. For any change, you try to bring about any small change, there is always a general resistance not to change. That is a human behavior, right? So, there's a kind of a behavioral, neurological study and neurological analysis in organizations where they found that our brain is becomes quite comfortable if we are more predictable than if we are in a comfort zone where if we continue to do what we've been doing and we know what to do, the brain is quite happy about it and you kind of in peace. But if you become unpredictable, you don't know what to do tomorrow and you have to figure out what to do next, that's when the brain reaches to a certain optimal stressful levels. And that's when all these thought process initiates such optimal stress. So optimal stress is actually good, right? You don't want to overburden with stress, but optimal stress is always try to think how to do better. And that's what Agile helps you bring that. And the second biggest challenge is not enough leadership participation. So leadership initiates a transformation but does not participate. That's one. And then you have inconsistent practices or processes and practice across teams. That's when teams do not have agile organizations do not have agile center of excellence. There's no one single body who defines right what's uh, the Scrum model, what are the practices to be adopted, and how do you plan and start adopting, designing teams and start the adoption? How do you evaluate and assess teams, and how do you overcome challenges? There's no one to tell to do it. It's pretty much handed over to the individual lower level management who end up driving the agile transformation. And then you have finally you have the organizational culture at odds. So agile is driven by a set of 12 principles and 4 values, right? As you all know. Why principles and values are very important. It's not a kind of a rule book, right? The principles and values are basically used to influence mindsets for you to get onto that transform into an agile mindset. Because principles and values are always universal in nature. And for example, the first principle of agile says that customer is the most important person, and you got to satisfy him by continuous delivery to deliver valuable software. Now, that's kind of common to every organization across the globe. No one denies it. And all the principles and values are also universal in nature. That's why principles and values are essential. And when you have how organization culture is somewhat, if the leadership participation of the organization continues to work in a bureaucratic way with a lot of command and control approach, it doesn't give a certain autonomous way of working to teams. That is when organizations are, even though they're initiating agile transformation, they are becoming a hurdle in its transformation. Right. So, what are the building blocks of agile transformation? You have the organizational design, then you have the operating model and alignment, then you have the architecture and DevOps, where you actually use tools and services to help in a transformation. Then you have training, coaching, and team level process to bring about the change, where assess, bring about a change, and you inspect and adapt your transformation. Now, today we're going to look at the organizational design factor. Now, before that, I just want to put a Mentimeter. Let me share the link. Right. So I've just posted a Mentimeter link, and could you please let me go to the first question. Okay, why do we need to scale Scrum teams, or why do we need to work with network of Scrum teams? Could you just start posting in answers to that? We all know that we all work in individual Scrum teams, but that's one. But now product development has become so complex that we need network of teams to work together to deliver our product goals. So what do you think is a need to scale our Scrum teams? Okay, getting answers. Connect seamlessly. Enterprise needs. Use existing hierarchy. Well, yes. Yes. So Using existing hierarchy is one of the using a dual operating system model where you don't try to eradicate what you currently have, but try to reuse it. Okay. Any more answers? Connect seamlessly as you kind of synchronize through Scrum of Scrums and product owners sync up to synchronize to ensure that you as a Scrum of Scrums, are you delivering a certain product goal? You can start adding more questions, more answers to that. Okay, so John P. Kotter, the author of the book Accelerate, talks about we need a dual operating system, right? Because Agile is not something a kind of a silver bullet that you got to entirely erase your current project management structure and replace that with Agile. Not true. You need hierarchy for certain control, for stability, for policies, or because organizations are in different countries, there are certain obligations of local labor laws of those countries. So you need a certain common structure to be followed, right? So hierarchy is something you need. It's not something you can really replace that. But what you need is a voluntary participation. That is, you form a guiding coalition, and then you start. That's called what we call in Summit Scale as the EMS, Executive Meta Scrum, on what we call also the Executive Action Team. Executive Meta Scrum means the product owner organization, the product designing organization, or the product council, right? Who's the guiding coalition who decides whether to create a product or kill a product, initiate a new product. And each, the Executive Action Team, are the set of guiding coalition or set of leaders who decides on the operation level, how do you really execute and get the product developed, right? And from that, you create multiple such guiding coalitions who, where they implement the strategic activities, right? Using Scrum at Scale. So let's look at how the Scrum at Scale framework looks. It's very simple. Now, the beauty why Scrum at Scale has grown phenomenally in the last couple of years, and now they have pretty much a 12% market share, is because of its simplicity. It's not heavy as many other scaling frameworks is, and not too prescriptive, where it becomes very difficult to understand and implement and follow. So in Scrum Scale framework, you have two cycles, one the Scrum Master cycle on the left-hand side, and on the right, you have the Product Owner cycle. So there are certain responsibilities on the Scrum Master cycle where you have the continuous improvement, cross-team coordination, delivery, and what you see in the middle is the Executive Action Team, EAT. It's the operation side of things. Then you have the Executive Meta Scrum on the right-hand side in the middle, who are responsible, the product owner organization responsible for creating product visions, prioritizing the backlog decomposition, release planning, and release feedback and team process are the integration of both these processes. And if you look at that, there's something common that you may have heard somewhere. If you look at all the components in circles, that is, these are very similar, which appears on the Scrum Guide. The Scrum Guide was intentionally created for the team level process. Now, Scrum at Scale framework talks about how do you use Scrum to scale Scrum. So at a team level Scrum, what do you apply? You apply the same at a scale level. And there is no limit to how many levels that you want to scale. And there's no limit for any organization, be it the most startup organization to a large enterprise. So this is one such structure where if you see one pentagon with amber color is a product owner, and one pentagon symbol, a dark pentagon symbol refers to one team, right? So each team has, and the red color pentagon inside is the Scrum Master. Trying to signify every team has a Scrum Master and a product owner. And each of these teams all these teams scale up to form first level of scaling. Then we call that as the Meta Scrum, or the Scrum SOS is called the Scrum of Scrums. And this can be a product team or a feature team in a large organization. And all these, you have 4, you have 3, 7, then you have 5, then there's 12, then you have 14, then you have 5, 19. So there are 19 teams scaling together to up to a level of executive meta scrum. So it's a kind of a small organization, maybe trying to build one single product where you have just 2 levels of scaling up to the EMS. Now, this is a bit medium organization where you have 38 teams and 3 Scrum of Scrums. So you have, if your individual team scales out to be a Scrum of Scrums, then this goes to the next level called a Scrum of Scrums. Now, the names is this representational. Now, in real time, when you actually design your organization, it could be, so this could be a feature team, this could be a product team, or a portfolio team. And the Scrum of Scrum scales up to the EMS. So there are 3 levels of scaling in this. Now here we have 9 Scrum of Scrums and 54 Scrum of Scrums. So that is why we say a Scrum at Scale framework grows organically. That means we don't disrupt the current design of the organization while we scale and add more teams. It's also called as a scale-free architecture. Just like how cells in a body multiplies over a period of time without affecting the current functioning of the body, the growth of an organization using Scrum at Scale framework is also a similar way. So this is how Scrum at Scale framework is applied in 3M. Here we had, if you look at in the middle, the executive meta Scrum, then you have the EAT coexisting here, then you have all the knowledge teams, that's the product teams basically, then you have infrastructure teams, they're all support teams where they share resources. Then all the ones in gray CR is the customer relations, people ops, legal amp. So all these are already performing at an organizational agility level. So this is an ideal design which has been proven to work successfully to achieve organizational state agility. Now this is how typically an organization may look, right? So you have an executive meta scrum here where the CEO, CFO, marketing, sales, and logistics are part of the EMS. Then you have the executive action team where you have the CTO, COO, legal, compliance, change leader, agile champions, agile leaders, finance, and HR are all part of the EAT. Then you have the agile practice heads also along with the EAT. So you scale. When you scale, then you have the chief product owner who reports directly to the EMS. Chief product owner can be a portfolio manager in real time. And they scale down to be 2 chief product owners. And each chief product owner has around 3 product owners working to them. So chief product owner can be a product manager in real time. So, and each of the product owners has different teams, so around 7 teams here. Then you have the VP of product here with people managers for all these teams. So this is where great products get built. The VP of product, chief product owner, and CEO. And this is where great people processes are built. There is Agile Center of Excellence, Scrum Masters, the Executive Action Team are all responsible for building great process to build products. And finally, this vertical structure is where you build people, right? So the question comes, where do you start, right? Okay, fine. Now I know what Scrum Scale framework is all about. Where do you start from? So Scrum Scale framework recommends one such cycle, transformation roadmap. For example, you start with one, create a shared understanding of success. That is, you need to have your goals, your business goals that you plan to achieve. From business goals drives your transformation goals. What are your transformation goals? Maybe for the next 3 months, you want to create an MVP of your transformation backlog. Create that and try to achieve that, right? Create a short-term wins. Then 2, choose your start point. That is, where do you want to start from, right? That is, maybe identify if there are multiple business units, you may want to select which business unit you want to start from. Who's going to be part of it? Identify those teams. And what do you want to accomplish? Create the transformation backlog. And just start sprinting. Then you got to establish the EAT or the leadership team, right? It's a kind of guiding coalition where you have your organization leaders along with agile leaders and the agile leaders working towards ensuring to execute product delivery. Then you create a meta scrum. The product council, the product organization is created, and they are trained on agile and scrum processes, and they start creating scale products. Then the recursive process starts where you initiate cultural changes. So very important. Only bringing in agile at team level is not important. Do you have an organization culture which is actually stopping you from agile? You need to overcome the challenge. For example, we've seen organizations creating waterfall contracts, but making sure that agile is followed at team level product delivery will not work. If your budgeting and finance is still following waterfall approach, but your product delivery is agile, will not work. All these need to work in sync together to be agile, right? So initiate cultural changes, then launch a reference model. That is the initial teams. You don't want to do a big bang transformation, right? Start small with a set of teams, then form teams around the backlog. That is, you identify different products, create backlogs, form teams around it, train them on agile and Scrum at scale, and then just start sprinting. So deliver, start sprinting. Retrospection. You figure out what are your challenges. You try to identify the challenges. You start overcoming those challenges. Problem solving workshops, performing root cause analysis, and other such activities, coming up with great solutions to see that how I can really better overcome my scaling challenges. Then you inspect and adapt through retrospection, and this is a rinse and repeat across the organization. Start spreading throughout the other organizations, right? So this is one start, and you could also create your own approach as well. So John P. Kotter talks about to bring about any change, there's an 8-step model, and it's found to be phenomenal to bring about any change. In this case, you're trying to bring about a Scrum at scale framework transformation in the organization. The first step he talks about is create a sense of urgency. So you should have some problem in your organization that you've identified and you're trying to solve that. And then through your solution workshop, you should have figured out, if agile is what is it going to solve those problems, right? Second is you form a powerful coalition, as we looked at some time back. As part of our design of organization, you have EAT, and you have EAT teams where we have the agile leads and agile center of excellence transformation coaches, all part of it, who will define the practices of transformation. Then you have third is create a vision for change. That is, now every organization's transformation vision is different. So you got to kind of come up with your own vision. What do you plan to accomplish? And fourth, communicate that vision. So ensure that as part of your organizational strategy that gets communicated, also communicate your transformation strategy. What is your vision that you plan to accomplish? So that there's an alignment across the organization in terms of what is expected of each teams, to achieve, and what do we plan? How do we plan to execute it? And start seeing results. And then empower action. Ensure that your Scrum Masters, your developers are empowered to really work. If one of the anti-pattern what we've seen is engineering managers who have their developers reporting to them are also the Scrum Master. Now that such kind of a team always lacks psychological safety. Teams are not open to share, have an open discussion, do not share challenges, they're not questioned, they don't challenge the status quo of the work. So avoid such organization design, right? Have a Scrum Master who works directly to the different management lines, such as the Agile Center of Excellence, and create quick wins. That is, if you kind of overcome few challenges and you performed, if your say-do ratio has been good as a product team, and you identify challenges, you overcome that, and all these are different learnings which you want to really spread and share the success of it. Create in organization we create carnivals. We try to talk about and certain all hand meetings that these are the successes to convince all of the teams to participate in your transformations. And finally, we want to build on the change and then make it stick. So how do you spread this across the organization and make it stick, right? So finally, it's the three whys, right? Why Scrum at Scale, right? So Scrum at Scale is something, it's something that fits the entire organization, be it small or large. And it's not uh, like there's a lot of organization which will force fit into it, right? It is an adaptable framework that allows systems and processes to grow organically, right? It's not that you apply it once and to bring about a change again or to customize it becomes difficult. It's a scale-free architecture, and it's based on unique conditions of your organization, which is yeah, and which also has unique challenges it faces. And Scrum Scale also provides the structure, your team and your teams provide the context, and together they make way for collaboration, innovation, and acceleration across any sized organization. And why should employees become Scrum Scale practitioners? The Scrum Scale practitioner course teaches responsibilities of the product owner, individual Scrum teams, and enterprise leadership in a variety of large scale contexts. Who should take this course? Well, the course is for anyone interested in how Scrum can be used to reform organizations to deliver twice the work in half the time. The course will help leaders and employees to become agile change agents at scale. The course will help managers to start agile transformations. So this course will also help managers to lead and empower teams, right? So the Scrum Scale framework is a 2-day. It's called as a registered Scrum Scale practitioner course. It's a 2 days course, 16 hours, and once you complete it, you'll have a short assessment, 30 questions, 75% you need to get it right. And once you do that, you'll get a certification as such with your name, signed by Dr. Joe Sutherland, and you can start implementing Scrum at Scale in your organization. Okay. So with that, I'm open to questions. So any questions that anyone has?